Hello and welcome to the Unshakeable Coparent Podcast. Before I dive into today's topic, I'd just like to mention my free mini course, Reclaim Your Peace with a Narc-Proof Home. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the episode, but this is all about reclaiming your peace in the face of high-conflict co-parenting and all that jazz, basically. So I will talk about that and mention that and how you can access that at the end of this episode. So this is a juicy topic, and it's something that I've not explicitly talked about or mentioned before, but it's kind of the premise behind Unshakeable Coparenting, or rising the fuck up, basically, as a woman, as a parent, and as a co-parent. Okay, and it's one of my favorite topics that, if you're in any of my containers, I don't talk about these terms and these definitions, but the whole idea behind them is, it will make more sense to you as I go into this episode. So tune in if you're curious or you've never really heard about feminine energy or masculine energy or the wounded feminine or the dark feminine. Okay, so it's an absolute game changer when you understand these types of energies that we hold within us. Okay, and when you can understand it, it's going to create huge shifts when you know how to tap into each one. Okay, so grab a tea, coffee, wine, whatever your favorite drink is, and let's get into it. All right, so feminine energy. You've probably heard about feminine energy here and there. Maybe not. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. That's okay. So what is it? Feminine energy is not anything to do with genders, but it's all about nurturing. It's all about being empathic, intuition. Okay, it's about caring, connection, and emotional expression. We all hold that within us, men and women, but obviously women more so. So think about when you're, soothing your child after maybe they've had a bad dream or they're upset, they've had a bit of a boo-boo, and you empathize with their feelings or use your intuition to understand what your child needs without them even having to mutter a word. Okay, that's what we're talking about here, that nurturing, caring, compassionate side. Okay, but in the context of, toxic relationships, abusive types, it gets taken advantage of. So this same energy is what leads us into getting to these places and staying longer than necessary. And even post-marriage, post-separation, post-divorce, you continuously empathize with your co-parent and excuse their unacceptable behavior. That is your feminine energy. That is what's keeping you kind of stuck in this cycle. It's what keeps you stuck when you continue to extend your empathy to them, when they continually prove to you that the feeling is not mutual and are going to continue to fuck things up for you, basically. Okay, so that is feminine energy. There's no good, there's no bad with any of these energies, but we need to find a balance. Okay, so that's a bit of an introduction to feminine energy. This is what leads us into these toxic, emotionally unhealthy relationships and marriages to start with, along with other things, but we're just talking about it in the context of these energies. Okay, now the wounded feminine. Now, this is where I notice a lot of women are in when they come to me, either in the DMs or when we come and work together. They are in wounded feminine energy. And this is not to say that there's anything wrong with them or there's anything wrong with that. We've all been there. I've been there. This is not a place or a state that we should stay in, because this is what's going to keep us in this perpetual cycle of abuse. Okay, so the wounded feminine energy, this is when, your nurturing, your empathy becomes detrimental. It's gone too far, okay? It goes and works against you. So imagine that you're always the one that's compromising and making accommodations with your co-parent. And, I say co-parent is usually with other people as well. And you are always compromising, always accommodating, or you find yourself constantly trying to keep the peace because you don't want to ruffle any feathers, you don't want to rock the boat, and you sacrifice your own needs in the process and your own well-being. And you end up beating yourself up, wishing you said this or did this instead. But you default to this kind of wounded feminine energy state, which is bending over backwards, keeping the peace, keeping quiet. Okay, you may be nodding away as I say this, and this energy when it's actually, you're fully in that and you have no other kind of energy or everything's quite quiet, this is where your natural empathy and understanding are taken advantage of. Okay. And not everybody takes advantage of that. Obviously, certain personality types do. So let's shift to the masculine energy. And again, just like with feminine energy, this is not to do with genders. Men and women have masculine and feminine energy. We all have this balance. And obviously, as you probably realize by now, they can be skewed. They're not balanced. Okay, so the masculine energy is like the go-getter, get shit done kind of energy. It's like being assertive, being very rational, being very goal-orientated. Okay, especially in the aftermath of, a divorce or separation, you might find yourself really tapping into this energy more. Once you've got past the wounded feminine stage, I would say, then you're like, fuck this shit, action. I need to tick some boxes. I need to get shit done. Okay, and I call it the get shit done energy. So, for example, you're firm in your negotiations about child support, or you make very rational decisions about your child's education and welfare or their medical, whatever it may be. And you set very clear, structured routines for your household. So when we are single parents, say, for example, this masculine energy kicks in because there is no other choice. There is no one else to lean on. It all lands on us. So we can get into the masculine very frequently, which is fine, but we cannot be all in our masculine energy. That will go against you. So you're the rock bottom in the storm. So making sure that everything runs smoothly despite any challenges, which is fine. If there's no other adult in the household, of course you need to do that. But it's not a state to stay in long term, because it can get exhausting, as you've probably found. That's where our burnout comes from. Okay, my interpretation of this is the wounded feminine is more of resentment, and too much of the masculine energy is where you are burnt to a crisp because you're just carrying everything. Okay, you're trying to have your career, or you're trying to run a business, you're trying to parent, you're trying to co-parent, you're trying to just be a woman in this world, and it all falls on your shoulders, and you're trying to spin all the plates. It gets hard and exhausting and tiring. And it's not a state we want to stay in, but it is necessary to get into those states, especially if you're going through any litigation, through the divorce, talking about custody battles. Your masculine energy is necessary in doses. Okay, so in co-parenting, the masculine energy does look like setting firm, like I like to say, cast iron boundaries for things like pick up and drop off times, or being very assertive with your ex when they're trying to undermine your parenting. And it's about taking control of situations where you might otherwise feel powerless, which you may be in that state. So as I'm talking about this, you may recognize, okay, I'm in my feminine energy most of the time, or you might recognize, oh, I have a lot of wounded feminine energy, if that's what we're going to be defining it as, or I'm fully in my masculine and I know I need to find some balance because I'm getting burnt out, I am exhausted, I am drained. Okay, so now let's talk about something a little bit different. Now, this is my I guess this is something you need to step into. This is where you take your power back. So this is the dark feminine energy. Now, I just want to say this isn't like anything evil or bad or anything like that. It is about embracing your power and your assertiveness. Okay? It's not being afraid to express your anger in a controlled manner, not just flying off the handle like completely erratic, controlled. Okay? Or standing up for yourself and your children. Okay. For example, when your ex tries to gaslight you or manipulate situation, you need to use your dark feminine energy to respond with confidence and assertiveness. Okay. Not allowing yourself to be emotionally manipulated or triggered or railroaded. This is the dark feminine energy. And that's what I say about whenever I talk about stepping into your power, taking your power back, taking control. I don't mean over anybody else. This is stepping into your personal power. This is the dark feminine energy. And this is what's necessary when you deal with somebody who is a high conflict co-parent or a counter parent, or they are toxic, abusive, narcissistic, whatever it may be. If your co-parenting dynamic is anything less than perfect, or the Hollywood picture perfect version, You have somebody who you're going to have to get into your dark feminine energy if you want any chance of overcoming these challenges and having them control your life. Okay, that's what I mean by unshakable as a parent, as a co-parent, as a woman. You need to step into your personal power, which is also known as your dark feminine energy. Again, it's nothing bad, it's nothing evil. Okay, so how can you use your dark feminine energy, especially in your co-parenting? It's like becoming unshakable as fuck. And that might mean having the courage to take legal action if your ex violates any agreements, or standing firm when they attempt to guilt trip you. It's about being unapologetic in protecting yours and your children's best interests, okay? That is your dark feminine energy. Having the courage to step up and raise your standards as well for what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. Again, it's another way of saying becoming unshakable AF, in my opinion. So obviously, with all of these energies, we need to balance them. We cannot be too far one way, because then we're not tapping into the other areas. And when we are too far into any of these energies, that can be really detrimental to us. So balancing them means knowing when to be empathetic and nurturing, when to be firm and rational, and when to tap into your power and assertiveness. And it's understanding which energy serves you best in different co-parenting situations or scenarios. Okay, because you don't need to approach each and every situation in exactly the same way. It really does depend, but you need to be aware of what is necessary and what is needed, what kind of energy you need to approach these challenges with. Because you've likely found you go, full throttle, defense mode, argumentative, getting in the mud, engaging with your co-parent is going to backfire, and you're going to feel like shit for days, if not weeks. When you're calm, when you're grounded, when you're unruffled, this is where you're balancing all these energies, and you're more in your dark feminine because you have that perspective as well. It's not like we don't have feelings or emotions. That's not what I'm saying. We are human. We have feelings, we have emotions, we are mums. Okay? It just means having that balance and knowing what to tap into when. Now, I can talk about this for days and weeks because this is one of my favorite topics. And I don't talk about it enough. I talk about more the concepts without actually these terms. But this is exactly what I see. I have this perspective because I speak to thousands of women, and I've seen 1,000 different ways that people co-parent in these 1,000 different scenarios. So I have that outside perspective. Like for you listening right now, you've got your perspective of your situation only. That's one situation out of, a million different scenarios. So it's that perspective that we need, and you need to know when to tap into each type of energy. I mean, obviously we don't tap into wounded feminine. That is not really a sustainable place to be, but it's a place that you will be in the beginning of your journey. Feminine energy, we need balance. Masculine energy, we need balance. And then the dark feminine energy, we need the balance as well. But they all three need to work together. They're cohesive. Okay, so how this might apply to you, I really want you to reflect on your situation and your life in general. And are you leaning into too much into one of the energies? Are you more feminine, more nurturing, more empathetic? Are you in your wounded feminine, like where those beautiful traits get taken advantage of and you're the one left with your needs not met and you're feeling resentful? Are you too much in your masculine because you are just kicking goals and getting shit done, but the emotional state is not there, the empathy, the compassion for yourself? I'm not talking about for your co-parent. Or, too much in your dark feminine. I don't think that is really a problem. You just need to know when to really step into that and when to step out of it. So when I say becoming unshakable, that is not unshakable like all day, every day for every single scenario. We can be softer sometimes, and then we need to really step into our power at other times. But overall, raising your standards for what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, because mediocre, there's no room for that in your life if you are going somewhere. If you want a different life, if you're not exactly where you want to be in your life, not just your co-parenting, if you're not the parent that you want to be or know you can be, if you're not the woman you want to be or know you can be, there is room for improvement, which means there is work to do. You don't have to do that work, but I'm making the big assumption here that if you know you're not where you want to be, something needs to happen, something needs to change, some getting outside of your comfort zone needs to occur, okay, which means taking action. All right, so we looked at feminine energy, masculine energy, dark feminine energy, and also touched on wounded feminine, okay, which, the wounded feminine is a huge part of this journey, but you really need the awareness. If you take anything away from this episode, is that this is not a state to stay in. It's unsustainable. It will not get you anywhere. It will keep you stuck in this journey and in life. Okay? It is necessary in the beginning, but it's not somewhere we need to stay. Okay, so we looked at how these energies, they manifest and how they manifest in everyday situations, especially in your co-parenting, and how important it is to balance them so that it's not just so that you cope, but you also manage the challenges that come up around you over, whether it's weekly, monthly, annually. When you have challenges thrown your way, you need to know which energy to tap into. Okay, and which one is going to serve you the most for that particular situation. All right, so that's all I wanted to say for today's episode. Obviously, I could go a lot deeper into this. I would love to know your thoughts. Maybe DM me over on Instagram at Unshakeable Coparenting to let me know your thoughts on this episode, because I'd love to hear what you thought about it, because this is something that not a lot of people know about, but it will be super useful for you, especially if you feel stuck in your co-parenting. And remember, my free mini course, Reclaim Your Peace with a Nut-Proof Home, it is there to help you further in this journey. So DM me Reclaim, the word Reclaim, RECLAIM, for the link to access that, okay? And if you found value in this episode, please rate, like, subscribe, all those things so that you don't miss anything in the future that I share, and also share it with any friends, women who you feel could benefit from this conversation, because I feel that there are so many women in the dark about these topics because we don't know what we don't know. But once the cogs start going around, you start having your eyes open to these things, it's like, I get it. I understand how that works now. Okay, and you have more power than you give yourself credit for. Okay, so until next time, take care, embrace your power in all of its beautiful forms. Much love, and I'll see you next time.